So, discussing this topic, the War of 1996, is an event in the movie Independence Day in which it starts off with the destruction of major landmarks in 3 different cities, including Los Angeles, New York, and Washington. Well, really, Washington, D.C. is the nation's capital, but New York and Los Angeles are also major cities. As mentioned, I'm going to be discussing about 3 cities that were targeted during that wave when the aliens invaded the planet and destroyed everything in its path. So, there are 3 cities, as I said, that we're going to be discussing about. The first city we're tackling on is Los Angeles, California, home of Hollywood, the city of the angels, the city in the West Coast, and home to 4 sports teams, the Rams and the Chargers in football, the Clippers and the Lakers in basketball. But with that being said, we're going to be talking about what has happened during the events of the War of 1996 in this city alone. So, in July 2nd of 1996, we got an alien spaceship arriving on Earth, but it casts a big shadow covering up the Hollywood sign which sits on the hills in Hollywood. And the shadow is also casted over neighborhoods and areas of Los Angeles. And we see landmarks getting covered too. After the aliens' arrival, people residing in that city have a much different reaction, although there might be traffic jams due to an evacuation that might be occurring. But, we got people on rooftops, especially those that are on the US Bank Tower and other skyscrapers in the downtown area, welcoming aliens, cheering with their toys and their signs. But then when the police ordered them to evacuate, people did not listen to their orders, as they are about to get wiped away by aliens. So there's the process of the destruction. The doors are opening, which the doors are hovering over the US Bank Tower, but we see a streak of blue light coming out. It's like seafoam green. Next, an energy beam hits on the top of that tower, and we see it hammering on the helipad, and we see it explode. Bits of plaster and glass are coming out, and there's like smoke and fire comes out, starting a destruction of that city. Although we don't see those buildings get destroyed, but the fire is engulfing on the Citigroup Center. And in this area, people are running away, cars are being thrown, as well as trucks and SUVs. But these 2 buildings were annihilated by fire. And this is the aerial view of Los Angeles getting destroyed as we see a blast ring expanding into neighborhoods and all that stuff. And this is the interstate overpass and many other remaining buildings getting destroyed, and cars being thrown around, billboards being thrown around too. The second of the 3 cities we're tackling on is New York City, which is the Big Apple, home to many of the famous areas. We got the Empire State Building, Manhattan, Broadway, Staten Island, yada yada yada. This also includes the Brooklyn Bridge and the Statue of Liberty and Times Square. But here's what happens. We have a shadow casting over many major areas of New York City. And this includes Staten Island, Ellis Island, the Bronx and Queens, and Chinatown. And we see the alien spacecraft about to hover over the entire city. And its main target is about to hit the Empire State Building, which we will be discussing in a few minutes. So the alien spacecraft has positioned itself over the satellite rod of the Empire State Building, which in real life, the Empire State Building was built in the 1930s during the Great Depression. But there is a much different reaction on the East Coast of this area. There have been early rush hours, traffic jams. People are just trying to get their stuff and get away because they are panicked because the aliens have arrived on Earth. And they're about to destroy every bit and piece of the area. During the evacuation sequence, an alien spaceship opens its destroyer over the Empire State Building, having the same greenish blue effect glowing all over it. And we see it almost once again. And this is where they're about to hit the laser beam on the building itself. It's really scary. And the laser beam hits on the Empire State Building. People watching it, they're starting to run away because we see fire coming in through the path. Cars and everything being thrown around. People are running away from it. But Marty did not take it seriously because he was sitting in the car on his phone. And once again, there's fire and about to go through apartments. And this results in Marty getting killed. And many other buildings in this city alone were getting destroyed. Cars were being thrown, people are getting killed. And this is a cataclysmic scene in this movie with a towering wall of flame. But in the aftermath, some of the buildings that were destroyed were still standing, but it's been heavily damaged. Ironically, the World Trade Center that was still standing after its heavy damage refers to the 9/11 attack in 2001. We're tackling on Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, which is also the home to many of the famous landmarks, including the White House, the Monument, the Capitol Hill. It's also home to the Air and Space Museum, the Smithsonian Museum, the National Mall, and, of course, the Lincoln Memorial and the Monticello, which also may be the other victims of its events during the War of 1996. The aliens arrive and they block out the sunlight, which puts a shade on many things, including the Washington Monument, the Capitol Hill, and of course, its top victim is the White House. In real life, the White House was burned by the British during the Civil War. But anyway, people had the same reaction. I mean, they were trying to get out in a hurry. But two men went from New York to D.C. to warn the president. And we see an evacuation process prior to the attack that's about to happen. An energy beam hits on the White House, and the White House is destroyed. The helicopter gets into a fire. The Capitol Hill, of course, gets destroyed by fire, which engulfs it. Every bit and piece of these landmarks were thrown around. That is plaster, glass, wood, and every piece and bit that gets thrown around by flames. That's all I got today in terms of the War of 1996, and I just hope you guys find it very intriguing. To those that don't know anything about the movie Independence Day, please watch the movie. It's really awesome.